Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this event brought to you by the Spiritist-Society of Bournemouth and Poole Christian Spiritualist Church. I am Fabrício from the Spiritist-Society of Bournemouth. It is a great pleasure to welcome this evening our guest speaker, Evanise. Evanise is a psychotherapist. She is founder and president of the Spiritist Psychological Society. Her work focuses on self-actualization to help people achieve their full potential. She also promotes integral health, where body, mind, and spirit are in full alignment to help create the best of health and the fullest potential of each person. Evanise's talk tonight is on identity of spirits, the distinction of good and bad spirits. We very much look forward to your talk tonight, Evanise. Before then, let us go to Lawrence Saville at the Poole Christian Spiritualist Church for our opening prayer. Over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Fabrizio, and good evening, Evanise. So if you could just still your minds just for this short time, put aside all the worries, and just link in with that divine within. And we give thanks for evenings such as this, where we can learn and we can grow and we can understand better our place within this world, that we may link in with those that we come across in our paths to be able to help and assist, to send ourselves on that journey of service to all that we meet, bringing together the brotherhood and sisterhood of man into this time, into this space, into this understanding and expansion of knowledge and truism. And we now place this evening in the hands of our guides and inspirers. They will assist us and help us in our endeavours always. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lawrence. I now hand it over to Evanise for her talk on identity of spirits, the distinction of good and better spirits. Over to you, Evanise.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation, for being here tonight from Fabrizio and Lawrence. It's a great pleasure to be amongst all of you, all of those who already are with us, all of those who may be joining us throughout our reflections tonight. I like to interact pretty much with my public, so please feel free, everyone, to bring the questions if you have any as I go along in our reflections. Our intention is not to have the last word in this study tonight, but is to help to bring some information and perhaps help to stimulate each one of us to carry on our studies according to the natural laws in the universe, which are offered to each human being or each creature in the universe. Tonight, as mentioned by Fabrizio, our theme is Identity of Spirits, Distinction of Good and Bad Spirits. And this is merely from the book, the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, and we are focused tonight on the chapter 24. Why is that important for us to reflect, for us to study? Because we are all spirits, we are all immortal beings, and we are all on the journey of evolution, and also for us to learn as we are growing as spirits, to distinguish between ourselves what is good and bad, and also in that way gradually becoming better, with more discernment, to also analyze those spirits who are with us, because we all bring the free will internally that we can use it so that we can care about ourselves and also care about others. Our reflections will not be only considering working within a Spiritist center, but will also apply to all daily existences if we are a Spiritist or not, because the reflections are based, as mentioned previously, under the natural laws. Off we go. So the chapter 24 from the Medium's book, item 263, we learn. It might be given as an invariable rule and one without exception that the language of the spirits are always in accordance with the degree of their evolution. All of us express ourselves consciously or unconsciously in the level that which we achieved so far in understanding the natural laws in the level that we developed our intellectual intelligence, our emotional intelligence, or our spiritual intelligence. So as more as we promote our self-knowledge process and we become more aware what really is going on within our psychic, then we can also perceive perhaps our own limitations and also choose to overcome them. The superior spirits not only say good things, but also say them in terms absolutely exempt from all trivialities. This knowledge helps us also to reflect what predominates in mind language, because we start with the spirit who we are, so that we can then also later on recognize and evaluate better others. Language always reveals its origin, both by the thoughts it expresses or by form. And even if some spirit wants to deceive us about his supposed superiority, it will be enough to talk to him for some time in order to perceive reality. This can also be applied if we are workers in the Spiritist centers, when we work on the practical level, but also in our daily existence, not to criticize ourselves or others, but to get to know where we are coming from, or to get to know where other people, other beings may be coming from, their best version at the moment, so that we constantly are engaged in actualizing ourselves. Bear in mind that essentially we are good beings, but sometimes we still are on the work of stimulating the goodness within ourselves. And we can always learn with the superior beings, those who are more evolved than us, those who are helping us to evolve too, those who are constantly enlightening us or stimulating us for us also to renew and promote us. Kindness and affability are essential attributes of the purified spirits. They have no hatred, neither to men nor for other spirits. Here we can learn in the item 264 in chapter 24, that is fundamental that all of us choose freely to develop kindness and affability, because those virtues still need our attention, merely because we are spirits who are in the level of evolution that we are blessed with the mercy and love of God to be in the school Earth. But when we study the scale of evolution, we understand that the planet Earth still is a, let's say, primitive world comparing to the superior worlds. So although we are studying and learning in this planet, that does not mean that we cannot on daily basis choose to be kinder, choose to be more affable, so that we may open more the connection with our spiritual benefactors as well, or those beings who really are with us, constantly inspiring us. Superior spirits lament the weakness, criticize the mistakes, but always in moderation, without anger and without animosity. It is admitted that truly good spirits only want goodness and say good things. Therefore, it must be concluded that everything which denotes in the language of spirits lack of goodness and kindness cannot come from a good spirit. Here again, bear in mind, we can even reflect on daily basis, because Spiritism is constantly inviting us for us to get to know who we are beyond our own limitations, with honesty, with sincerity, and then see how much we also still are in need of changing. But at the same time, embracing the opportunity for us to educate ourselves in becoming better today than we were yesterday, and tomorrow better than today. And in that way, especially if we are ostensive mediums, we increase our discernment to know which kind of inspiration sometimes we may be receiving from spirits that perhaps are not yet superior, that sometimes may even be inspiring us in the wrong pathway. So as more as we learn to discern, we can also perceive it, but not validate it. And in that way, we are also growing in terms of inner assertiveness and inner clarity. In the icon 265 from the same chapter, intelligence is far from being a certain sign of superiority, because intelligence and morality are not always paired. Only spirit can be good, affable, good spirit, and have limited knowledge, while another, intelligent and educated, can be very inferior in morality. Here already we are invited to reflect about the different aspects that all of us are in need to develop, which is the intellectual intelligence and the emotional intelligence. But quite often we have developed much further ahead already the intellectual intelligence, and we are lacking the emotional intelligence, which refers to the ethical values. So if I'm a spirit who is very ahead in my intellectual intelligence, but not on the ethical level, I can use the intelligence and cause great harm to myself or others, because my choices may be contrary or against the natural laws in the universe, which are God's laws, which are summarized in love, which perhaps I may not notice yet. And then we go on here. When we reflect about morality, dear friends, we are referring here morality in the sense of the ethical values, which are equal for all of us all the time, everywhere, throughout our existences and throughout our evolution, because they are based on God's or the universal values. It's different than the moral values based on human laws, which differ from country to country, from culture to culture, or from epoch to epoch. So just to clarify that, what we mean by. Good spirits are never offended when questioned, for them themselves advise it, and because they have nothing to fear from the examination. There is another learning that we can take on reflections. Do I feel offended when people perhaps may be rude in their way of expressing themselves, merely because this is the best that they can be at that moment? Do I feel, or I am dealing with resentment that also shows that I'm dealing with my own shadows, that I can choose to promote myself? Because we are all in the pathway of becoming better beings in order to be aware of the shadows, choose freely to overcome them. We all have given by God, when we have been created simple and ignorant, the faculty of freedom, which means we all have right now the ability to constantly make choices, and better choices that we made previously in case we didn't get it right. So good spirits, they don't offend themselves when we question, when our questions are sincere as learners, because they themselves are always inviting us. Don't accept everything blindly from any person. Question, analyze. Because within Spiritism, which is still quite new in humanity, comparing to other spiritual pathways throughout centuries, but Spiritism is presenting the old wisdom in new language, helping us now to bring the focus within. Spiritism is all about empowering us, that we learn to think for ourselves according to the universal natural laws. Only the bad ones are offended and try to avoid it, which proves they are misleading spirits. That again is a reflection for all of us. Do I feel offended if someone is questioning my viewpoints on a daily basis, either in my family, at home, or workplace? So if that is the case, I don't need to blame myself, neither feel guilty. I only need to learn that that is my issue, that I'm still very on an egoistic response, and I can choose now to understand that I have options. Instead of reacting, instead of feeling offended, I can choose now place myself in the position as a learner and be more docile and train my virtues, which is the patience, and always be open to reconcile, which is the way that we move forward. In the icon 267 in the chapter 24 from the Medium's book, we learn the means of recognizing the quality of the spirits can be summarized in the following principles. Let's see what we can learn about ourselves, about our interaction with others, because we are all under one of God's laws here, which we refer to the law of society. We are constantly interacting with each other and with ourselves as well. So each one of us may reflect within, not look on the other, but within, and what we can also promote and learn and get from these reflections tonight. And as I mentioned previously, if there is any doubt, any question, please feel free to bring them, and I will, in the best of my ability, to interact with you. Here we learn the first: good sense is the only criteria by which to discern the value of spirits. Every formula given for this purpose by the spirits themselves is absurd and cannot proceed from superior spirits. So here we are invited to develop good sense, which means to be more prudent and not validate everything which comes from spirits. Spirits, as us, we are immortal beings, we are evolving, we are in the journey of evolution, but it does not mean that we know everything. So it's fundamental to understand. It's not because it's a spirit that I believe, well, the spirit knows everything. Further on, we will realize that it's not the case, further on in our reflection tonight. The spirits are judged by their language and by their actions. The actions of spirits are the sentiments they inspire and the advice they give. So here is important that we also understand our own actions, consciously or unconsciously, they are driven by our emotional aspect. Therefore, it is so important for us to get to know which kind of emotions are predominating within our psyche, so that we can realize that we can change, we can actualize, and also other spirits, not for us to judge anybody else, because we don't have that right to do that, but for us to learn within ourselves, from ourselves, and also with other human beings who are spirits, or also learn from those who are with us. Let's imagine that I'm an ostensive medium and I may be receiving the inspiration from a bad spirit, may say, well, suggesting me to get into slander and gossip. Well, if I don't learn to discern and understand that that actually comes from an inferior being, I may even be let's say, stimulated on my own inferiority and guide my life into that negativity. But if I'm aware, if I'm selecting on a daily basis the goodness that is my purpose, and if I receive any kind of negative inspiration on that level, I will never validate on the behavior level. I will take responsibility for what I think and feel and promote myself in goodness. And instead of entering the gossip, I will enter the possibility of forgiveness and training my mind so that I can also express good words that favor unity and fraternity. It being admitted that good spirits can only say and do good, nothing bad can come from a good spirit. That is very clear. Good spirits are always favoring universal fraternity within our families, within our work settings, within our communities where we are interacting, either incarnate or discarnate. This is the natural laws that govern us, based on goodness and universal fraternity. It's still on item 267. The superior spirits have a language always worthy, noble, elevated, with not the least tinge of triviality. They say everything with simplicity and modesty, never show off, never make a parade of their knowledge or their position amongst others. The inferior or ordinary spirits has always some reflections of human passions. Every expression that shows vulgarity, self-sufficiency, arrogance, boasting, agrimony is an indication of inferiority or of betrayal in the spirit if the spirit presents himself under a respected and venerated name. Here, Allan Kardec is inviting us through our studies and self-studies, promoting self-reflection. Again, it's not because someone speaks very wisely and may have a very sharp intellectual ability to favor his communication that the spirit is ethically or morally elevated. That can happen within our interaction with human beings, or it can also happen with our interaction with the spirits. We are constantly interacting with each other on a mental and emotional level. We are all mediums in general terms, as Allan Kardec also teaches us in the Mediums book. Why? In which way? Because we all the time, we think and feel, and therefore we are communicating with others. It's very important to analyze ourselves, who I am as a mortal being right now in this moment in my existence. I am favoring simplicity. Do I choose to cultivate modesty? Do I choose to be more humble in the way of my experiences and my choices in my daily existence? Where am I in those values? As I say here, the inferior and ordinary spirit usually have some kind of reflections of human passions. Then the invitation is, what are my passions that I still may be validating and sometimes unconsciously? What can I do to get to know them? The study of Spiritism is one of the ways that will help us. Also meditation, also willingness to improve ourselves. Honesty with ourselves will also help us to notice, to perceive, and at the same time also choosing to overcome them through the practice, through the exercise of goodness that we may choose in our existence. We must not judge spirits by the material form, neither by their correctness of style. It is necessary to analyze their inner world, their words, observe them maturely and without prejudice. Any deviation from logic, reason, and wisdom leaves no doubt of their origin, whatever may be the name under which the spirit presents itself. So here again, in order for me to get to know another spirit, for example, if I'm part in working in a Spiritist center or not in our interactions, how can I know more or less what goes on, where the other being is coming from? It's necessary that I expand my self-awareness, that I increase my ability with sincerity to know how I function, psychically speaking, and with sincerity and with honesty to always be willing to promote myself more in goodness. And also to learn to listen, not only what comes through the words, on the verbal words, but also learn what comes and is communicated on the energetic level, or what comes on the emotional level, especially when we are dealing within Spiritist centers, when we are working with the disincarnate spirits already. Even if the spirit can lie on the words that he may be saying, but on the emotional level, there is no way that it can lie, because the medium will perceive the truth. And even if you're not an ostensive medium, we are all natural mediums then, we can also, through evolving psychologically and emotionally, and promoting us on the emotional dimension, which means the ethical values, so that we balance ourselves more and become more sensitive in picking up the energies around us, we can also perceive that. And I remember all of us again, or remind us, it's not for us to judge others. That is not the purpose. It is for us to learn to take care of ourselves, so that we are less influenced by negative or inferior entities. The language of elevated spirits are always identical, if not in form, but at least in essence. The thoughts are the same, whatever the time or place, but they will never be contradictory. If two communications bearing the same name are in opposition, one of the two is evidently false, and the true one will be the one which expresses union and charity. Again, here we need to familiarize ourselves more and more with the natural laws. The gospel, according to Spiritism, for us within Spiritism, has great methodology which helps us to become more familiar with the ethical values that we all bring within already. But the study will help us to become aware and stimulate, because as we learn in the Spirit's book, where are God's laws written, we are informed by the enlightened spirits they are written within our consciousness. And even if we are not a spiritist, we also, if we follow any path of spirituality that is promoting goodness, that also helps us to go within, to expand those values, which are the virtues that we all bring. The good, the elevated spirits, they will never contradict themselves, because the truth is one. All of us, as we evolve, we coming closer. In the stage where we are now, we have different viewpoints, but still, if our viewpoints come from our essence, although they differ from each other, they will not contradict. That we still can train ourselves in this experience where we find ourselves in. Good spirits tell only what they know. They are either silent or confess their ignorance or what they do not know. The bad speak of everything with boldness, without caring for the truth. Any notorious scientific heresy, any principle that shocks good saints shows fraud if the spirit pretends to be an enlightened spirit. Here again, the good and enlightened beings are helping us. How can we promote ourselves? If we are in an environment, in our family or workplace or in the community, and if someone asks me something, if I'm dealing with my own shadows, even if I'm aware of them and perhaps be driven by arrogance and pride, I may feel that I always need to give an answer, doesn't matter if that is right or not. If we are more seeking honesty, sincerity, and working towards those superior values, so if I'm in the same position, I will say in a humble way, I don't know. And if, let's say, I'm a parent, I will say to my children, Mommy doesn't know that, or Daddy doesn't know that yet, but I will go and search, and once I learn, I will come back to you. But inferior spirits, they will always give an answer. Doesn't matter what it is, and they are not concerned about the impact of the lies in our existences. This is why it's so important for us to learn to distinguish between good and bad spirits. Sometimes the bad or inferior spirits, they don't have the intention to harm us because they are ignorant. So it is our job to learn more so that we know to differentiate. As more as we learn, we also know that we are all valuable beings already. We don't need to pretend what we are not. Under God's eyes, we are loved as we are already. As long as we choose constantly to carry on the exercise, to carry on the practice of goodness. We recognize frivolous spirits by the facility which they predict the future and predict material facts, which we do not know yet. The good spirits may predict future things when that knowledge is useful for us to know, but they never fix dates. Therefore, any announcement of an event at a fixed date is sign of mystification. We would say this day and this time or this period on earth, we hear a lot of things. A lot of people saying the spirit A, B, or C is saying this and this and that. But we also are in very challenging moments on earth. As the earth is already in stage of promoting from a planet of trials and expiations towards a planet of regeneration. So we are quite mixed, us and all of those also from the lower spheres, in order for us to learn from each other. So again, the importance to discern, the importance to study in order to learn to discern. How many years are we hearing sometimes that the end of the world has been predicted? Within Spiritism, that never comes from superior spirits, because they would never give this information to any one of us, and would never give this information through any serious medium. So again, we bring the focus back to us as mediums, so that we, let's say, cleanse our minds and hearts, become more humble and more loyal to our spiritual benefactors, that we can be instruments of goodness that the enlightened spirits may bring to us. But also helps us here when we hear through the news that we don't believe in that. A lot of people even go and kill themselves when they hear those informations. This is why we will never be given by superior spirits. And if there is any knowledge that we need to know, they are very discreet in that way, but never dates, never dates. The superior spirits present themselves with simplicity, without prolixity. Their style is concise, without excluding the poetry of ideas and expressions, clear, intelligible to all, and requires no effort to comprehend. They have the art to say a lot in few words, because each word has its meaning. We tend to say as more inferior the spirit is, incarnate or discarnate, more we have the tendency to say a lot and talk and talk and talk. As more the spirit evolve, because it will simplify psyche, less need to say a lot, but also because we will simplify our knowledge or understanding. As more complex we are psychologically and emotionally, that will be manifested through our communication. As we simplify ourselves, that also is manifested in our way of communicating. And we can see and can learn through literature that the higher spirits, they are very precise, they have the right words to communicate the right meaning. That is also something that we also learn. And also when we promote our emotional intelligence, which also helps us to clear more our psychic channels, also our reasoning, our thinking becomes more clear. As we can carry on learning, good spirits never command. This is another aspect which is very important for us spirits who are on earth, either incarnate or of those who are in spirit with us. They do not force themselves on anyone. They advise, and if they are not listened to, they withdraw. The bad are imperious. They give orders, wish to be obeyed, and remain in their position, whatever happens. Every spirit who forces himself on someone betrays his origin. They are exclusive and absolute in their opinions and pretend that they alone have the privilege of the truth. They demand blind belief and make no appeal to reason, because they know that reason would unmask them. Again, is an important reflection. So to even address ourselves, I am a kind of person or a kind of spirit who likes to command, to dominate others, to control people, to control situations. So through this item, I'm reminded that is my inferiority. Or again, if I receive an inspiration from a spirit, it's not because it is a spirit. If it is commanding, if it is demanding that I should be doing something, that is not coming from neither my spiritual benefactor, neither from enlightened spirits. The good spirits, they always advise, they suggest, and if we or anyone refuses, they withdraw. Why? Because they respect our free will. And they understand that sooner or later, through the law of progress, through the law of evolution, we will by ourselves learn to discern and to, let's say, change our ways of being. We are here in the school earth, all of us, and even those in the spirit who are with us, in order to learn to control ourselves, not control other people or situations. This is the way that higher spirits already interact with each other and teach us also how we can promote us. And that is quite freeing once we learn to do that. When we learn to control our thoughts or belief systems, when we learn to control our inferior tendencies and we choose to re-educate ourselves, that is the real way that we learn to free ourselves, from our patterns or conditionings from previous existences, because we are beings from centuries and centuries that we are already on a pathway, learning and doing mistakes. And here we are in the best of our version, so that we also can choose to overcome any eventual limitations, shadows that we still may bring with us, which does not suit us anymore. Good spirits do not praise. They approve when they do well, but always with reserve. The bad give exaggerated praise, stimulate pride and vanity, while preaching humility, and seek to exalt the personal importance of those which they choose to influence. Dear friends, here we are again, reminded in our self-reflection, self-knowledge process, which kind of a spirit I am. Do I like to be praised? How do I feel if I receive a praise? What are my intentions, or what are my motivations behind my intentions when I have these tendencies? The inferior or bad spirits, sometimes they use this technique, knowing that we still are very, let's say, weak in our pride and selfishness and personal interest. They stimulate to praising our weaknesses so that we fall again contrary to what our purpose on earth is. Fundamentally, that we all seek freely and spontaneously to develop humbleness. Humbleness, my dear friends, is not weakness. In the old days, in the previous existences, where we were much more imperfect than now, humbleness was considered weakness. Now we are here under the proposal of the greatest psychotherapist, the greatest psychologist, for everyone, for all the humanity. Jesus is teaching us and saying that humbleness is inner strength. Inner strength is the opposite, actually, that we gradually are learning, better say. The superior spirits despise in all things the triviality of form. Only ordinary spirits attach importance to petty details. Incompatible with truly elevated ideas, any meticulous prescription is a certain sign of inferiority and betrayal of the part of a spirit who takes an imposing name. So here again, we can learn from ourselves, we can learn from other people, because they are also beings of goodness in essence. They are also children of God. But the elevated spirits, they usually are suggesting to us to free ourselves from any trivial aspect or ways of being that we still may have, although it still is very present on earth, triviality, but always bear in mind that within ourselves we bring the key to promote ourselves. The key is called free will. It's not because the majority still may be on that level and choosing triviality. We are free to elevate ourselves. Let's take advantage of this new and unique reincarnation that we are blessed with. The good spirits are very careful to the advice that they may give. They have only a serious and eminently useful aim. We should then regard with suspicion all motives that are not of this character, or that would be condemned by reason, and should reflect seriously before undertaking them, for we might be exposed to uncomfortable mystifications. That is important. We still are, let's say, imperfect, all of us, myself and every one of us, although essentially we are good people, good beings. So we need to take care of ourselves, that we don't allow to open our psychic doors, let's put it like that, for these mystifying spirits to influence us. What is mystification? Mystification is the aspect to lie, to mislead. So as more as we learn to be sincere, to be honest, to be humble, which are the great values that promote us in terms of learning, to be confident within, to feel more safer within ourselves, then we also can distinguish better those aspects in us or around other people who are around us. We recognize good spirits by their prudent reserve on all subjects that might expose others. They dislike to unveil evil. Malevolent spirits are pleasant in displaying them, while the good seek to attenuate the errors and teach indulgence. the bad exaggerate them and stir up discord by perfidious insinuations. There is a fundamental aspect also for us. When we see the other's shadows, because we have shadows, we carry imperfections, other people as well. So in the stage of evolution where we find ourselves, what is our immediate response? Is to criticize people when we see their shadows or imperfections, is to speak out about them, is to make them public, or are we already within our hearts, within our minds, connected with our purpose of evolution, silencing that? Are we capable already to embrace that higher proposal? Because it's not only these incarnate spirits who like to gossip and slander and criticize others, but we are also spirits, so we are here to filter what comes from our unconscious memory, selecting through the conscious mind what suits us through our new purpose now, new proposal, which is goodness. And in that way, in case we receive these either from incarnates or disincarnate spirits, we choose to learn to select that. We learn to be sincere, then we can become stronger in discerning. Bad or imperfect spirits betray themselves by material signs which cannot be mistaken. Their action on the medium is sometimes violent and provocative of sudden and abrupt movements, a feverish and convulsive agitation, totally opposed to the calm and gentleness of the good spirits. That sometimes also happens at the beginning of our mediumship or the beginning of our experience on the spiritual level, even if we don't know what is happening, but the experiences, when we have those kind of experiences, we may ask for help in the Spiritist center or in other ways. And then usually we learn to hear when we are in the beginning of educating our mediumship, then we still are lacking more psychological and emotional balance. And then we may be quite influenced by those spirits who are very rude sometimes and they don't care about be gentle or loving. So as more as we recognize that and we promote us in goodness, in patience, in tolerance, in universal fraternity, in solidarity, in forgiveness, we become stronger psychologically, emotionally, that means ethically. And even if we feel the presence of those spirits, they will not have any influencing us in terms of dominating us. For them not to dominate us, we need to learn to be in control of what we think and feel and educate our minds and hearts towards goodness. That is the way that we protect ourselves from within. Imperfect spirits often use the means of communication open to them to give perfidious advice. They excite distrust and animosity against those who are antipathetic to them. Those who could unmask their impostures are especially the objects of their criticism. They target weak men to induce them to evil, presenting in order to convince them sophisms, sarcasms, insults, even material signs of their occult power. They strive to turn them away from the truth. Dear friends, that does not happen only in the Spiritist center with spirits from the spiritual world. The spirits from the spiritual world, they are with all of us in our homes. How are we relating with our spouses, with our partners, with our children? Because sometimes even our child can be stimulated by those bad and imperfect spirits to affect us. And sometimes if we are not aware, we are invigilant, through our own shadows, we may become a microphone of those imperfect spirits when we criticize others, when we induce separation, when we slander or gossip around other people, when we talk on the back of others at home, in family settings. Let's always be attentive on those aspects. The spirits are with us and interacting with us everywhere where we are. This is not for us to be in a fear and fearful state of mind, not at all, because the Spiritism is really healing the feeling, the eventual fear within, teaching us that we are all spirits. We don't need to fear the inferior spirits. We need to learn to love ourselves so that we can also from within spread love and goodness towards all of those who are around us, even those who may be inspired negative and hateful thoughts. We filter them and we don't validate them. And at home, if someone is in their, let's say, negative state, we learn to forgive. We train ourselves in forgiveness, and train ourselves in indulgence, and train ourselves in universal fraternity. In that way, that will not affect us. The knowledge that some spirits show, often with a kind of ostentation, is not a sign of their superiority. Unchangeable purity of moral sentiment is, in this respect, the true touchstone that is fundamental for us within our individuality and while we are relating with other beings. It's not because someone is speaking with a very high intellectual resource that means that they are presenting the truth, either incarnate or disincarnate. We need also to learn that the truth is learned through our intellectual intelligence and also through our emotional intelligence. I can be a spirit who is highly evolved intellectually and yet completely shut down emotionally. That means ethically. So if I'm very evolved intellectually and not morally, I can use the intellectual aspect, my intelligence, and cause great harm to myself and others. Of course, while I'm behaving like that, I think that I'm not causing harm to myself, but I am. Later on, through the law of cause and effect, that will be presented to me for me to review and renew and change the experiences previously chosen. Always, let's say, in this stage where we find ourselves as spirits, we all already advanced more in our intellectual intelligence. Now we are here once more through the love and mercy of God, the creator of all of us and everything, for us now to invest in developing our hearts, our emotional dimension. It is not enough to question our spirit to know the truth. First of all, we must know to whom we are speaking to, because the inferior spirits, ignorant as they are, deal frivolously with the most serious issues. This, dear friend, is fundamental for us to comprehend. Why? Because again, the frivolous spirit is almost like they play around. They are not interested. They don't care about what they say to us, if that causes consequences and negative consequences in our existences, as long as they say whatever they want to say. We are the one who need to learn what is correct according to the universal laws, what is correct according to God's will. How can we learn to discern? So when we are eventually under the influence of those spirits, we will not validate that. I repeat myself again. It's not because it is a spirit and is saying that it's the truth that we believe in it. We need to learn to reason for ourselves. We need to learn to develop our ability to question with them, so that we also stimulate within the truth that all and every one of us carry since our creation. For superior spirits, humor is often fine and funny, but never trivial. Amongst the mocking spirits, when they are not brutal, sarcastic satire is often very convenient. So humor is part of the superior spirits because they are happy. Why are they happy? Because they already override their old memories and overcome the vices and the negativities. They trained their minds and hearts and actions according to the greatest will, which is the greatest law in the universe, which is love to all, forgiveness, indulgence, benevolence towards everyone all the time. So it's almost like they learn to overcome the excesses of pride and selfishness and developed humbleness and charity. Charity in a global sense means learning to be benevolent towards every creature in the universe, learning to be indulgent towards the imperfections of others, learning to be forgiving all the time, as many times as needed. And those are exercises of self-love. In order to charge the spirits as in order to judge others, first, it is necessary for one to judge itself. Unfortunately, there are people who take their own opinions as exclusive measures for good and bad, for true and false. Such people evidently lack the first requisite for a healthy appreciation, integrity of judgment, but they do not suspect it. It is the defect which most people elude themselves with. That also is helping to remind us where I am. I'm very rigid in the way that I present my ideas, or do I present them in a way that they are more flexible, that even if someone doesn't agree with me, I'm okay. And at the same time, I'm investing in promoting my knowledge according to the universal laws. Where I am, everyone needs to respond for themselves, so that we also connect better with our spiritual benefactors. And as we're coming to the end of our reflections today, or close to it, we are reminded, still in the Medium's book, in the chapter 24, item 267, that only the virtue can purify the spirit, bring it closer to God, and expand its knowledge. Knowledge is not only acquired only through the intellectual intelligence, it is also acquired in developing the emotional intelligence and the spiritual intelligence. And all of us are in this pathway. All of us are currently in the present promoted with the possibility. Take and validate the possibility in order to promote us is an option which is based on our individuality. We are on earth, as Jung teaches us, to develop our individuation. It's not our individualism or individuation. We are unique, loving beings created by God, and we are in this stage now responsible to carry on promoting us towards divinity. And in the Gospel according to Spiritism by Allan Kardec, we learn that virtue to the highest degree is the set of all the essential qualities that constitute the good person. Essentially, we already are good people, good beings. Essentially, because we have been created by God, we bring the seeds of all the essential qualities, the higher potentials of the Spirit, are waiting for every and each one of us to stimulate our free will in a responsible way, and choosing freely to condition our minds and hearts and behavior and actions with ourselves and with others in a good way. We all have this possibility. Take this possibility is an individual choice. Or in the Spirit's book, question 893, we learn by the enlightened spirits. All virtues have their merit because they all are signs of progress on the path of goodness. The most meritorious is the one which is based on the most disinterested charity. Here we are learning all the virtues are the higher potentials of the soul. Each one of us, as a mortal being, has developed them to some extent. But as we conclude that we are learning in the school earth, that means we just started to develop them. We still have a long way to go. But whatever effort we put in on a daily basis to become better, to be more fraternal, to be more forgiving, to forget the shadows and wrongs of other people, because the shadows or imperfections of other people under God's laws or under the methodology of evolution means they are divine instruments in order for us to overcome our own shadows. But we need to ask from us so that we learn to take responsibility for what we think and feel and have awareness to that level. So if someone is rude with me, the universe is inviting me to promote me in forgiveness, in indulgence, in benevolence, in kindness, in gentleness, as we saw previously. We all have several ways, several possibilities in each day to favor this inner promotion. The most meritorious is based on a disinterested charity. That means that we are invited to reflect on our selfishness, pride, and personal interests. We all have them in different levels. So everyone needs to check them, that we now cultivate humbleness, simplicity in our hearts, sincerity in our minds and hearts, and in that way we learn freely, spontaneously, to do good for the sake of goodness, not to receive any praise, not to expect any recompensation, only how the enlightened spirits do it for the purpose of doing good. Because doing good does good for the one who practices goodness. And naturally, in that way of behaving, in that way of relating, we are choosing to learn and evolve and progress to the law of love. We are diminishing our pains because we are not resisting the constant invitations for us to distinguish between good and bad within ourselves and around us. And even if you notice the bad aspects or the inferior aspects from others, as I mentioned and repeat again, these are possibilities if we choose to promote us even further in all the virtues, and everyone needs to reflect which kind of virtue or which kind of virtues did I, as a spirit, come back to promote myself with. For sure, no one is left without this possibility. And in that way, I guess we are coming to the end of the time. And let me know, Fabrizio, Lorenz, if that is the case. So I'm open now here to close it.
Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. A brilliant evening. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you. Sorry, Fabrizio, over to you.
That's okay. It was a great pleasure to be.
Yeah, Vanessa, your talk make me remember and reflect on the Spirit book. There is a passage there that say we receive so much influence from the Spirit more than we can imagine. And then tonight, when you walk us through your slides and presenting your presentation, it makes me realize even more now how important that is for us to separate what is bad versus good. Because if we are 24/7 being influenced by the spirits, we need to know, we need to separate what is bad versus good, because the influence that we received, we can even imagine, is a lot more than I actually can think of. And that insight of us starting to separate the bad and the good and understand when it's bad and it's good, for me is really good to have that insight and carry that us.
Yes, you are quite right. The question is, it just came to my mind now. I'm not good to remember the question itself, but the question says, do spirits influence us in our thoughts and actions? And the enlightened spirits say to us, yes, much more than you think of. So much so that they are guiding you. That is fundamental in this reflection that we presented today, because learning to discern the good and bad, that means that we are working towards promoting psychological and emotional health. We are choosing to promote our own happiness. We are choosing to promote our own psychological and emotional independence as a spirit. It is fundamental.
Let's see. We have got a few questions coming up on Facebook. One of them is someone's asking, can the presentation slides be shared?
I don't know, is this talk recorded?
It is.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah.
those who are listening, where can they see this? Because they can get it and the information, all the slides there. Is it available in your website, in your Facebook, Fabrizio?
Yeah, this presentation has been broadcast to the Pole Spiritualist Church, the Spiritist Society of Burma, Kardec Radio in America, and I think it's on your YouTube page as well, Lawrence,
Yes,
isn't it?
But is it saved as with the video or only with the audio? If it's with the video, the people have access to all the slides.
They do.
pause when they are watching. I always recommend to mine the other, when we have our own studies, I always teach the people, watch the video again. Stop, pause it when you find something important, reflect again. Do they have access to that, Fabrizio?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes, they do.
I've just put the link on the comments box there for the YouTube channel because that's the easiest for people to access.
Okay.
And like you say, watch a part, pause,
precisely,
and then go on, which I will be doing.
This is the way that I learn too, because we need to be patient with ourselves. We don't learn, and I don't expect that we remember everything by the end of the talk. This is just the way that we learn. Good. Thank you that you did that.
So we have someone, it doesn't come up with the name, so I do apologize. It just showed here to me is Facebook user. It says, I am at my beginning journey, although Spirit has been in my life since childhood. This has answered many questions for me.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, dear friend, I don't know your name, but it's not important. Be welcome to our reflections tonight. If the spirituality always has been part in your existence, welcome to the reality, the real world. We are all spirits, as I mentioned tonight. I'm very pleased to know that you got some answers from those reflections. I would also invite you, find a Spiritist center if you find affinity with these studies and engage in the studies. I don't know where you are from, but these days a lot of things is online because we are through the COVID still not able to be present. But engage with the studies that will help you a lot, that will help you to understand your own mediumship, which we didn't present much here tonight, that will help you also to learn to be independent psychologically and emotionally from other spirits, that will help you also to balance yourself more and more and give so much more answers to perhaps to your questions. I'm free here to help in case I can, but Fabrice is also there. So wherever you find a Spiritist center, if you do have affinity with the Spiritism, please feel free to join us.
Thank you. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to the announcements, and if anyone is still watching us on Facebook, wanna pop any question, I will go to the announcements, and then I go back to the questions and answers. So, Lawrence, could you put that slide up for me? So this, what I wanna say, is a campaign that we are doing for Florencio and Daniel Rossi in Brazil. This work that they do over in Brazil is something that is very close to my heart. And this is the High Five campaign. It's a campaign by the Kardec Group, which is committed to support two charities in Brazil who assist poor communities with educational activities, professional activities, and housing. All they ask is just £5 per month, the same price as a coffee and a sandwich. The group being supported a group Espírita Sheila in Salvador, Bahia, founded in 1999 by the painting medium Florence Alton, who visited Poo this year. I'm sure a lot of you that are watching us has seen the beautiful painting that Florence do to support his work back in Brazil. As well as we are helping the Instituto Mutirão, founded by Daniel Rossi in the community of Uberaba in Curitiba. These two charities in Brazil have been created with the purpose of humbly supporting those who need with the basics of somewhere to live, the ability to read and write, educational activities to help ensure children are safe and not involved in crime, helping to ensure that people have food on their plates and that people have the ability to find dignified jobs that help them support their families. Both of these groups are reliant on donations in order to support the many families who are reliant on the respective groups for support. Spiritism teaches the need of care for others, to help and support others, to respect and consider others as brothers and sisters of humanity, all deserving the same care and attention that we would want ourselves. If you're able, with a single or monthly donation, please visit www.spiritist.org kardec.org.uk/high5. So that is the announcement. I hope you can help us for those that is in need, and I hope I can count with your high five. So that is the announcement that I have to do. Our next talk is next week on the 11th of December, and the topic is fear, love, meditation, and immune system with Cristina Saresavalo. So that is our last talk of this year, 11th of December. I'm just going to go back before I hand it back to Ibanez and Lawrence. If there is any question here on the chat.
Yes, there is one. I'll pop it up.
Okay, cool. So the question is, I'm wondering about the use of term good and bad. Shall I understand bad as less enlightened than the good ones?
Yes, that could be, if that is the case. We understand that good and bad are, good is all the higher potentials, the virtues. Bad are our shadows or imperfections. We can also reframe them in that way. So as more as we evolve, Susanna, we all are developing the good values, the good aspects. And those and good spirits we are essentially good spirits. We just need to overcome our own limitations that we developed throughout our history, as we were much more ignorant in the past than we are today. And that needs to be seen in a very loving way, that we embrace our own history and change ourselves now. And even that is important also for us when we are referring or relating with other spirits or brothers and sisters in humanity. Could be in our family setting, could be in a Spiritist center, could be in a community where we are, that we see that they are less evolved than us. That does not mean that we are superior than them. That only shows that we, through the love that comes from God, are invited to help His children or brothers and sisters. Could be my husband, my wife, my child, or my brother, my sibling, to help them also to promote. It's not focusing on the shadows of others. It's promoting light within and let the light shine outside in relation to others.
Brilliant. Thank you,
Lovely. Yeah, that is actually becoming quite a topic now. And I think a lot of it is down to semantics. I know people myself who don't like the word bad or evil or whatever, and it is just a figure of speech. But you did touch on something which I wanted to jump up and cheer when when you talked about it, and saying about spirit are not free of their earthly conditions in that first part of the passing. And that is so true, and that is something people tend not to think about and tend not to give a lot of detail to. There is this ease of thinking of you pass over, you return to spirit, and suddenly you become really good and everything has been forgotten and there you are, wonderful person. And I'm sorry, that's not the case. We are continually evolving. We've got one life. To me, we've got one life. Yeah, whether it be in spirit or here or wherever.
Okay.
And we're continually progressing. And this thing about, oh, well, spirit told me. And I was like, what spirit? Test the spirit. Because you said a phrase as well, it's always been drummed into me by many teachers, discern the spirit. And that is so, so true. That is something we always need to do, discern. You know, if somebody walked up to you in the street and gave you advice, you wouldn't go off and go, oh, right, okay, I'll do that then. But people tend to, you know, they get it from spirit and they go, oh, okay.
Yes, Lawrence, it's very serious when we
It
the
is.
consequence of that. And that merely shows the level of our evolution, how infantile we still are, or how immature we still are psychologically, emotionally, how less we developed our own identity. It's fundamental that we develop our own identity, that we learn to think for ourselves, because there are plenty of those spirits around us. And if I bring as a spirit is marvelous or fabulous aspect in relation to spirits are very easy to be influenced. And also what you just brought up, Lawrence, is when we have this, let's say, more immature aspect in relation to when someone leaves Earth, as you rightly said, we have one existence and many, many different reincarnations. One existence, doesn't matter if we are in a body or not, we still are the same being. Who will I be once I disincarnate? The same as I am here. Who will be my mother, my father? The same as they have been here. But among my mother or my father, and we say that with great respect, sometimes people think because they disincarnated, they now are holy beings. And that is not true, because sometimes the spirit here on earth did really good things and really promoted, but that is not the whole history, psychically speaking, of that spirit. They may be in great trouble when they go back. And then our way of reflecting or thinking of them in that, let's say, wrong way, we put more pressure on their psychic, because they know that they are not what we think they are. So it's very important to develop this discernment. The studies will carry on helping us, and good for you that you also have this service that you open for the public. And gradually we all are learning what the spirit actually is and what means a spiritual life. A spiritual life is here on earth as well. It's the same. The way that our tendencies are here will be the same when we free ourselves from the physical body. The only things that will change is that we are freeing ourselves from the physical body. But psychologically and emotionally, through our vices or not, or through our virtues, the same aspects that predominate with us now will be carrying on after we free ourselves from the physical body. This is why it's so important to invest in our evolution in terms of cultivating the higher potentials that we all bring. This is the purpose, actually, to be on Earth once more.
So, Ebenezer, I'm going to come up to the last question because I'm concerned about time, and we have exceeded a little bit of time. One question that comes from, again, on our friend here on Facebook, Cleo. She says, from what I understand from the presentation, in order to recognize the spirit, a person needs to study more the essence of love and Jesus.
I would say, dear friend, for us to recognize more recognize the spirit a person is, for us to become more familiar with ourselves as a spirit and others, the reality as we are is spirits, we need to study the natural laws in the universe. As more as we study the natural laws, for us in Spiritism, we understand that Spiritism is a science which deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of the spirits and their interaction with the corporeal world. As more as we understand that the spirits are beings as us, we are all here interacting with each other, even if you don't believe in it, even if you don't know about it. So as more as we study, and more we study the gospel, or Jesus' gospel, which is the essence for us to develop our emotional intelligence, more we become wiser, more broader is our understanding about life, more we can help to promote us and also to promote others, because we are here to cooperate with our own evolution and favor also what we can to promote others. But I do understand it is the study about the natural laws.
Our lovely Susan mentioned here, brilliant talk, so much food for the thoughts and reflection. Thank you.
And
Much love to you, Susanna. Much love to you.
Yeah, she is our guest as well tomorrow night.
Oh, I see.
In Paul Church.
Oh, good.
It's an interesting comment.
That's why we must be extremely careful with psychography message that comes out of nothing. Yes, Marcia. We didn't have this topic tonight, but when we study within the Medium's book as well, that helps us to inform the seriousness, because it's very easy if I open that channel to connect with any kind of a spirit who wants to communicate. Those who are very unbalanced, those who don't have any kind of discipline, any kind of, as I mentioned, knowledge what the consequences are, is very easy to attract them, but it's very, very challenging. for us to learn to be independent after that. So the best way it is to be connected with the Spiritist Center, so that we go through these studies first, as Allan Kardec teaches us, all the enlightened spirits, that we need first to study in order to know how to practice mediumship. And as more as we do that, we also learn a lot about ourselves, and then we are stronger again. Within, ethically speaking, or psychologically, emotionally speaking, we can discern better, then we can avoid a lot of, let's say, bad experiences, which could be the consequence of our lack of, let's say, filtering who we are with.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
So, Lawrence, I will come to you now for us to do the closure prayer, please.
Thank you. And once more, dear friends, if we could just still our minds, our bodies, reach out with our hearts, and give thanks for this evening, for this record now, to assist us in our journeys, our education, and our understandings. We ask a blessing on all those that have made this night possible, and all those that have joined in tonight and in the future. May the blessings be bestowed upon you in bounty, and may your journey be assisted and guided, and may you receive the help that you ask for. For whenever you ask for help from your heart, it is there, given freely and in love. Amen.
Amen. So I wish to say a good night to our friends on Facebook who has been watching us. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And Evanice, would you like to say anything before we can close the event?
Just say thank you for the opportunity to be here with all of you. It has been a great pleasure. Let's carry on together, studying and evolving and growing in love and goodness. That is our purpose, that we are already connected with each other. Carry on connecting through goodness, through light and love.
Thank you. Lawrence, over to you.
No, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you, Fabricio, for organising these wonderful nights and brilliant topics. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody out there watching, either live tonight or later on catch up, thank you for taking the time. It's so important at the moment we get as much education as we can. You know, life isn't about what's the word I'm looking for? The amazing. Life is just about living this life, about being a good person, helping others, and understanding life. And that's where we need to invest our time, understanding ourselves and understanding life and how we can evolve. So thank you all.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all and have a good night. Goodbye.
Okay, good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.